The Queen of Discs is a mature mother character of whom here surveys the physical world of which she has created and of which is her home. The Rider-Waite character also shows this gazing into the world of being, the world of which has been created, and you can see something of that abundance growing behind her with this natural world of which blooms. She is the watery part of earth, and these go well together. Of course, water and earth create life, and they also nurture life once it is already here. So some believe that life itself actually began by some strange communion in the deep oceans, and we crawled out onto the land and we began our civilizations, our lives here, around the Mother Ocean, around the lakes and rivers and places that give us life. And so she looks out here over this landscape, and you can see a river running through it, and it's quite a harsh looking landscape, and we're going to return to it later, but to me it looks like the cradle of civilization, which is exactly that. It's the starting of life being literally built out of sandstone and out of natural materials, homes, cities, civilizations, all building up around the banks of the rivers, because the rivers give life and sustain it in a perfect equilibrium. We can see that as well with the Tree of Life. So as a queen, of course, she's Binah, and she's Binah here, especially in the world of Isaiah, so it's that physical world of making. And so this card is very physical. It can be about our actual bodies, or the things around us, our homes and the things that we have, so to speak. And yet, Binah is also ruled by Saturn, time, and so there is an impermanence to the things of which are actually born after being nurtured here in this womb of Binah. And so, as well as just literally giving birth to physical form, she could represent its impermanence, and therefore its cycle, this cosmic dance of birth and death and rebirth, seen in everything in nature, of which she surveys across this landscape here upon the actual card. And the symbols on this card can all be interwoven with each other to expand upon its meaning. And so firstly here we can see the image of a goat balanced upon a golden ball or a golden globe. This is its astrological association, and it's heavily weighted towards Capricorn. And Capricorn, shown literally on top of the world, can be that symbol of which we see with the goat. So the mountain goat, in folklore and in symbology, climbs to the top of the mountain in a symbol of overcoming the struggles of which it would find. It has to be strong, it has to be determined and have a lot of perseverance in order to actually reach the summit. And of course, if we look at that in a human way, when we reach the summit, we have that sense of accomplishment and that sense of sitting back and surveying the land around us and saying, look at this, I've actually scaled this mountain. And Crowley would have understood that, of course, because he was an accomplished mountaineer in life as well, and so I think he would have actually enjoyed seeing that symbology here. The goat also has long horns, and so this suggests that it is of some great age, and it represents all its experience in life, and so it has a lot of wisdom. It has literally, perhaps, ascended the mountain. It's seen all the different winters and summers and the struggles and joys of which come with them. And we also see that on the Queen herself. She wears a helmet of which has these very large goat horns upon them. And they are actually the horns of the Markhor, wild mountain goats, of which are seen in the Middle East around Afghanistan and places like that. And these are literally mountain goats, and the horns on them have this wonderful spiral pattern, suggesting the natural cycles and dances of the cosmos, just as we began with in this symbology. And this shows, first of all, that the Queen herself is somebody of whom has experienced a lot, so she's not like the princess who is just discovering the world. She has already been through it. There's a great deal of wisdom about her, symbolised by these horns, and also it shows that she has come to this point that she's sitting in, of which is a fertile landscape. You can see all these green foliage and trees around her. She's come to this at the end of a long journey, so you could literally believe that she's come across this landscape in front of her and climbed literally to the top of this mountain, just like the goat. A symbol of a long life, the journey of life, and all of the stories it could tell. And of course, if she has had that long life, she will have seen a lot change, and she will have changed herself with it, grown with it as those horns grow. And so that's why we can see that her dress has these scales upon it. It looks almost like a snake, a sort of reptilian image. And this shows an endless capability for renewal, to shed the skin, to literally change her outfit. And when she changes her outfit, just as we do when we put on different clothes, we feel good, or we dress for the occasion and so on like that. She grows, she understands the situations that she's in and dresses or acts in accordance with how she should or how she has learnt to for that situation. And with it she continually grows, not just in age physically, but of course in wisdom and in experience. Now she holds in her right hand the wand, and this has upon it a crystalline symbol showing a cube, and inside the cube is a hexagram. And so here we have a symbol of the sun and the earth, so the hexagram, of which has 6 sides and therefore represents Tifereth, which is ruled by the sun, is of course the light of life, and just as we saw with the water, is something of which allows life to grow, as we see with the plants and the photosynthesis, like literally growing towards the sun physically. And the cube around it represents the earth, and so it is a firmament of the earth. It's a bit like in the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, where we say, "Within this earthen bowl we call the sky, whereunder, crawling cooped, we live and die." This earth and this sun, of which allows days to pass and things to grow, is our home, and everybody of whom has ever lived has lived here on the earth. Every, man of great wisdom and every evil leader, they've all lived here, and they've all seen the sun go up and the moon come up and so on. And so it really is quite a humbling image as well. And yet, as well as that, the wand with this symbol upon it can represent the fertility of the earth, of course. The sun and the earth and the water all coming together brings life. And if we have a look at the wand as well, it has this serpentine image snaking around it, of which is in many regards symbolic of the Kundalini awakening, which is the serpentine energy of which we see in yoga, of which rises up the spine, symbolised here by the wand, starting from the root chakra, and the energy rising right upwards until it bursts out of the head at the crown chakra in samadhi, or enlightenment, of which is symbolised here, of course, by the crystalline earth and sun brought together. This symbol also is similar to the symbology we began with, the goat climbing up the mountain, the growth and the enlightenment and the clarity of vision of which comes the higher that it climbs up. And we also see this again with the next symbol, of which is the orb of which she actually holds within her left hand. And this shows an image of a cosmic dance within it, these circles. And there are actually 13 different circles on here. And so this is rather esoteric. This brings us back to the Tree of Life. This is the 13th path upon the Tree of Life, of which connects Tifereth and Kether. And it's also associated with the Priestess tarot card, and therefore by extension as well, the moon, and of course all the things that come with that, the intuition and so on. And this going from Tifereth to Kether is the same thing that we've seen again, of course, the rising of energy back to the white light at the top, the source, the singularity, however you choose to actually interpret it, the enlightenment and the wisdom of which comes from it. And also Tifereth is beauty. Of course, that's how it's often described. It's that central point on the Tree of Life. And so this path, the 13th path, shows that in order for this equilibrium of the Tree of Life itself to take place, the will must eventually find itself in beauty. And only then, of course, can it unite with that perfect intelligence from where it comes from, the coming back together with the one, and all that sort of imagery. And this brings us to true will. that we see in Thelema. Love is the law, love under will. The love is, of course, the beauty of which we see here, and that our true will is that of which leads us to love, that universal uniting intelligence, or the realisation of love itself in that regard. That she has these type of symbols on her, of course, shows that she is literally a mother figure. She is very nurturing, and she helps us to uncover the paths that would take us towards that true will. And we can even see that symbolised literally on the card. We have the sun, as we've seen there, underneath the goat with the orb, and we have the moon above it here, which is represented by the 13 circles, because the moon is associated with the priestess, of which is associated with the 13th path. And so, of course, she is perfectly balanced. She has completed this journey emotionally stable. You know, she has learnt a lot, of which has enabled her to understand her emotions and nurture her heart, and, you know, all of the other people of which that she will see as well. So again, it's literally a motherly figure, and somebody of whom helps us to understand our intuition, and therefore helps us to get on the right path for our journey, because she has had this journey. She has walked this crooked mile, and we can see that the background of the card is almost desert-like. It's quite a barren landscape, and so it will have been a difficult journey to actually get to this fertile land that she's in. She, however, was guided by the river. It looks like she's followed the path of the river, of which represents, of course, her following the true will, the spiritual guiding force, like a spiritual sat-nav, which is her intuition and things like that, which has actually led her towards it. And then she imparts that wisdom onto us. So she says it's a hard journey, but figuratively, there's an oasis here that you can stop at, you know, and get a drink, and there's some trees here that you can find shade under. She's seen it, she's lived through it, and so we should listen to her, because she knows what she's talking about. And so when you get the card, it's very physical, and it's also that very motherly and nurturing sort of card. It often can represent a person, this one, of which could be a literal mother figure, or even a teacher, or something like that. And it can even represent ourselves, you know, that our love of family and home and things like that, and of taking care of our bodies, because if you're going to be walking this this barren landscape and having a long journey, then you're going to need to eat and drink well, and know where your footing should be and all that type of thing, in order to actually make the journey in one piece. And so it's about nurturing ourselves in that regard, of course, and keeping ourselves in check, both physically, emotionally, spiritually. And above all else, this card is security. She's got to this fertile land. She's come to the end of this journey, and she can breathe a sigh of relief and say, here it is. You know, here is prosperity. Here is what I have worked hard to generate in my life. And so it can be financial security, for example, when you get it in the card. It can be a matter of finally coming to understand an emotionally important part of our lives, having come through something of which above all else has taught us a lesson and helped us see where we have been and where we are to go.